gentlemen, welcome to Field of 68's last call. Do you think that you could take down a black bear?
No, hell no.
I'm going to try.
The first person that's going to die has got to be one of the black guys. So.
Cold cuts, they suck.
Are Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce going to get married?
Hell no. Here we go. It's last call.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Last Call. My name is Rob Dosser. I have Kevin Sweeney with me. I have John Henson with me, North Carolina legend John Henson. We can call him a legend because he got robbed for the National Defensive Player of the Year by none other than Anthony Davis. You were robbed, Henson. Back me up on this, Sweeney. Was he robbed?
He was robbed. Yes, no question.
You know, the AD hype train. AD hype train. I get it. I understand. I mean, it is what it is.
Henson, the last time that I said this, by the way, I had about a dozen Kentucky fans in my mentions being like, how dare you say John Henson should have been the National Player of the Year? I was like, no. Defensive Player of the Year. There's a big clarification there. We got to make sure we get that one straight.
When we play Kentucky, they can, if people are watching, we play Kentucky at Rupp. Tyler Zeller was giving Anthony Davis the blues. Just, go look at that.
All right, listen, this is Last Call on Stadium. We are the Field of 68, and we're going to be here for now probably the next 27 minutes answering all the questions that you have. So make sure to jump in the chat and fire away. And guys, I pulled this one because I wanted to make sure that we talked about it at the top. We ended after dark with the conversation. Caitlin Clark, she set the record for the most points scored in the history of women's college basketball. Tonight. She did it in unbelievable fashion in the most Caitlin Clark way possible by hitting a 35-footer in transition that was, if it was anybody else, it would be one of the worst shots and would probably get you pulled out of the game and benched. Henson, I would just love to know what Roy Williams would do to you if you tried to shoot that shot in a game. But where does she rank among, I don't even know if it's necessarily college basketball players, but college basketball like moments, college basketball stories, college basketball. She is, to me, what makes college basketball great.
No doubt.
Yeah,
I think the thing I would say that's cool about Caitlin is watching the way that stadiums fill up for her, right? Like every single game, you look around the Big Ten and people want to come watch Iowa. And I don't think there's been too many kind of cultural phenomenons in men's or women's college basketball in a long time, right? Like I know you mentioned Jimmer. I think to a degree that's what he brought. There have been certain guys. Zion, I think, had that. For moments at Duke, you couldn't miss when he was playing. I think it's certainly the case with Caitlin, and I had the privilege to watch her in person her freshman year, and to see her, at that level be so good and know how much better she was going to get, and she has certainly achieved that, all of that and more. I mean, just a phenomenal career. It'd be cool if she could go out with a championship, but even if not, the impact that she has made on the sport of basketball as a whole is pretty special. So congrats to her on a great achievement, and hopefully a lot more to come.
Yeah, Henson, go ahead. I probably should have directed that question towards somebody instead of making you two guess who I was actually trying to throw the ball to there.
Yeah, I mean, she's going to go down in history. I mean, now we're potentially talking about her breaking, if she averages, I think they said 32 points over the next 5 games, she could break Pistol Pete's record, which he did in 3 years, which is nuts. But the fact that she's in that conversation, I'm a big history guy. I was on vacation in St. Martin when the Cavs were playing Game 7 in Golden State. And I said I need to be there for that. The Cavs won that game. It's a historical moment. So I love what she's doing. The fact that she's doing it while we're alive. I don't think anyone else with the NIL and the transfer and the portal and all that stuff is going on, I don't think it's going to ever happen. I think she's going to hold that record for a long, long time. Unless someone stays 5 years, that's going to get the type of buckets that she's going to get. But, I don't think they would stay 5, right? You probably go to the WNBA. So just appreciate the moment. The fact that we're able to witness it. Is amazing, and she'll go down in history as the best scorer ever to play the game at the women's college level. And another point, it's not like she's like some like Asia Wilson, just 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", freak athlete. Like she's a Midwestern girl, not the most athletic, not the fastest, tallest, strongest, and you can't guard her. So that makes her story even better. That's why there's lines down the block to watch her play. I think they set the record right for most people to witness a girls' basketball game this year as well. So I love that for the game. I got two sisters that played. It's awesome.
Yeah, I think the coolest thing about it, and how to know that not just she has arrived, but that women's basketball has arrived, is that if you go and kind of just search Twitter and look at comment sections and kind of see what people are saying about her, they're not hating on her because it's women's basketball or making jokes about that. We all know what the jokes that come out when people are talking about women's college basketball in the WNBA. They're hating on her just to hate because she's that good. You know what I mean? Like, that's how you know when someone has reached a certain level where they are hating on you to hate because of the talent level that you have. And I think that is a credit to her. That's a credit to the story. And it's one of the most fun and enjoyable things that we've seen in college basketball in a long time. And hopefully she keeps scoring a lot of points for a long time because it's a lot of fun to watch. And I don't want to see her go. All right. Next up from Jacob P. This is to you, Sweeney. Which team on a top 3 seed line is going to get bounced out of the NCAA tournament first?
Oof, that is a tough question. I think Kansas is the team that I would point to, just because I think, especially in the second round, if they get met with a team talent-wise, right? I mean, Henson talked about it earlier. Just the level of talent that is on some of these 6 seeds, these 7 seeds. It's serious stuff, and I think you're going to be ready to play. I think Kansas feels very prone to an upset right now because they just don't have a ton of shot creation. And look, maybe I'm being overreactive. This is a Bill Self team; they've got a chance, but I think this reminds me more of some of the Kansas teams that have exited early. I think of the team that got blown out by USC in the bubble tournament. I think this team is somewhat similar to that group, and man, I feel like I'm rubbing dirt on Kansas here. But I think as long as there's no crazy 1/16, 2/15, or 15/2 type upsets, I think a second round Kansas upset feels like something that feels pretty realistic.
Henson, do you agree?
I agree. I would throw. I don't know where Duke is at in our field of 68 bracket, but they're potential top 3 seed line that could be bounced early as well. Um, they they don't have the right type of dogs. We'll just call it like that, sweetie.
They got a bunch of cockapoos, a bunch of French bulldogs. Is that what they got?
I mean, they got a bunch. I got a Doberman. Jared McCain definitely a Doberman. I live with one every day. Not a Doberman. They've got a bunch of we'll call them miniature pinchers. How about that? They're
Mini
feisty.
Schnauzer.
Yeah,
Feisty.
maybe they're a bunch of giant schnauzers. How about that?
Oh man. Henson, one day I got to tell you this story of my boxer Sasha. And that you'll appreciate that story if you're a dog guy, because the golden retriever I have now is definitely a Duke dog. Let's just put it like that. He is a Duke dog 100% through and through. I'm going to go with Illinois in this conversation, just because I think that they are the team that is the most like wow, I can see them get into a Final Four when they play well. And wow, like how the hell did this team win 10 games this season when they play poorly? And there's really no in between for them. So that's kind of where I am at with the Illini. We'll go quick on this one, Sweeney. Does Baylor playing more zone raise their ceiling? That question is from Bram.
I mean, I guess their man defense hasn't been good enough. So I kind of like Scott Drew mixing it up, going back to his roots with the zone. And they can really shoot. So they're going to be in games offensively. They have to get more stops. So I don't mind this change. Obviously, the no middle helped them win a championship. But I think with this personnel, maybe zone makes more sense.
When Davion Mitchell and Mark Vital and those guys aren't walking through this door, like you gotta do something. Henson, how do you feel about zones?
I was going to tell you, I personally, when we saw a team go from man to zone, we got their ass. They can't guard us. And so, when a team goes to zone, I never played zone, but when a team goes to zone, that means that they're relenting. They say they can't guard you, and that just gave us more confidence. So, if they have to go zone, that's good for them, but that only puts them down in my tier of being able to go far in the tournament.
Yeah, well, listen, in the words of the infamous Bomani Jones, zone is for cowards. That's how I feel about it. Listen, when we come back, we're going to break down a hypothetical matchup between Purdue and UConn. Purdue. Welcome back to Last Call here on Stadium. We are live on the Stadium app. Make sure you go download it. It's the best way to get the best sports content to be able to fulfill your days here now that March Madness it's pretty much arrived. I'm just going to go ahead and say that March Madness has arrived. We're 2 weeks away. That's close enough. It's within the proximity. Rob Doster, Kevin Sweeney, John Henson. We are the Field of 68, and this is Last Call. For the next about 18 minutes, we are going to be answering any questions that you throw in the chat. Some of them, if they get us canceled, we'll see what happens. We're going to go with it anyway. Henson, I'm going to start with you. In the hypothetical Purdue-UConn matchup, how quickly does Danny Hurley get a technical foul? That is from Kyle C.
You know, I personally think UConn. I think UConn's a bad. I don't think Purdue wants to see UConn because they have everything that Purdue has at a higher level, in my opinion. Right, guard play, and obviously Zach Edey's the great equalizer. But in today's game, threes are better than twos, and threes are the great equalizer. And UConn can hit enough threes to make Zach Edey and Donovan Clean kind of wash each other out. So, my question to that is, within the first 10 minutes, if Purdue puts it on
them. Sweeney, what do you got? Talk to me about this potential matchup.
I mean, first of all, I would love to watch Danny Hurley have to deal with the officiating of Zach Edey, just because it makes everyone lose their mind. So why wouldn't it make Danny lose his mind? As far as the matchup goes, like
Chris Collins into a guy that was hyping up the Purdue crowd after getting ejected. I kind of want to see what would happen if, like, we need to have this game get played just so we can see what would happen if Danny Hurley loses his mind. Because if the whistle turns Chris Collins into that, just imagine what Danny Hurley's going to do. We might see chairs getting thrown into the crowd. We might see the scorer's table getting ripped off and thrown onto the court. Who knows what will happen with him?
It would be hilarious. But I do think it'd be a great game. Like, I hope we get it. Like, it would be an awesome national championship if that's where we got. The narrative would be unbelievable. Look, I don't disagree with what Henson said. I will say this. I think Braden Smith is as good as any player on the floor other than Zach Edey. Like, I think he can match up Tristan Newton. I think he can go get buckets. Like, I am the biggest Braden Smith believer that there is. And so because of that, like I truly think that, like, if Purdue's going to win a championship, if they're going to get to a matchup with UConn, I think it's going to be because of the way that Braden Smith plays, and for them to win it, he has to.
Sweeney. Tristan Newton would lock. Are you serious? Tristan Newton would put the monkey clamps on Braden Smith.
Braden Smith had 25 and 7 assists against Arizona on neutral court with their big physical guards. He dominated against Alabama. He's good, man.
Just because the defense is always in recovery mode, right? If they can get Clingan to just hold his own down there, it's going one-on-one. You know, I don't
Here's
know.
what I'll say about Braden Smith. This is the way that I feel about this specific matchup is that if Braden Smith goes for 28 points and like 2 assists, then UConn wins that game because that means that their drop coverage is working. And the only thing that they can do, that Purdue can do offensively, is get Braden Smith those little like 13, 14-foot pull-ups. And I think that is overall a good thing for UConn. If Braden Smith ends up with like 12 and 12, then UConn gets 30-pieced in that matchup because that means that he's coming
I
off those
gotta
screens and he's finding Edie to the rim.
I got to see Braden Smith bring the ball up under pressure, game wise, in pressure, situational wise. Because the last few times, I mean, you know, he's older and he looks way better. Don't get it twisted. He looks on, but last year that was their down. I mean, they couldn't bring the ball up the court when it got real, and that was their downfall. So, you know, teams are playing how they're playing now, but they'll scheme against him a little more as it advances, and especially when the tournament comes and all the marbles on the table. I think Purdue's gonna look than they usually see because that's the only way you're gonna beat them. You can't they can't know what's coming or they'll win a championship easily.
Yep. All right. So this is since you brought it up, Sweeney, you said that you think it would be a great storyline for UConn against Purdue. I had this conversation with someone the other day. I want to know what the most intriguing slash best slash most interesting storylines. Like I know what it would be for my Final Four. I'm curious, Sweeney. I'll go to you first on this one. If you could pick any Final Four where you would have the most stuff to be able to write about, I guess is probably the best way to phrase it. What would it be?
So Purdue and UConn for sure. UConn obviously the repeat element. Purdue Virginia arc certainly would be prevalent. The other two teams that I would take, I think Illinois would be in that Final Four just because obviously so much history there. Their fan base is so itching to get back to that stage, and then just the way that the season has transpired with the Terrence Shannon suspension, him coming back, them trying to find their footing again. I think that would be incredibly intriguing. And then the last team, I think, look, if we're talking about writing and who would make things interesting, it's Kentucky, right? Like if Kentucky turns it on, right, and obviously they've had their struggles, they've been through it. Cal has heard the noise, heard the heat. If Kentucky is in the Final Four with these freshmen after all the questions in the offseason, that would be an unbelievable story. Do I think it will happen? Not necessarily, but it would be very, very compelling if this Kentucky team is playing deep in the March.
Yeah, Henson, most intriguing Final Four for you.
I'm just gonna go with the big dogs. You're gonna go Purdue, UConn. We'll take a Houston, and we'll take Arizona. And that would be the most fun for me just to see these historical, heavy hitting, high power programs just locking horns, right? Like that's what college basketball is about. That's what I love to see. You know, the feel good Cinderella story is awesome. But let's be real. When the Kansas play UNC in the championship, like that's college basketball. When you got Kentucky's and the Arizonas and the heavy hitters, that's what we love to see. And I think that would be the most fun to see in Phoenix. So just the big dogs going at it, for a couple games.
Yeah, so for me, I think it's UConn and Purdue have got to be in there for all the reasons that we just mentioned. A chance to repeat, a chance to go and pull a UVA, I think is two fantastic storylines that you could tap into. And there's two other options that I have for what can make it really fascinating for the other two spots. The first would be Arizona and North Carolina getting there. Arizona, because one, you would have all of the Arizona fans showing up, but two, you would have that Caleb Love storyline and Caleb Love narrative arc where he went from being the guy that we all blamed for what happened at North Carolina to going to Arizona and helping them get back to a Final Four, while at the same time, the North Carolina team that he left, maybe it's right. Maybe he was the reason. You know what I mean? Like there's just so many fun things to talk about and storylines and narratives and ways that we can kind of dissect that matchup. I think that'd be one of them. The other one, to me, it would be Kentucky and Duke getting there. Kentucky for all the reasons you just mentioned, because it's Coach Cal finally getting back to a Final Four and John Shire finding a way to actually get to his first Final Four and kind of make that run in March. And again, Henson, you hit the nail on the head. We love upsets early in the tournament. We love when the big boys make it to the biggest stage, because you want to see excellence on excellence and greatness on greatness. So I'm kind of there with you. That'll be fun matchups, man. I wouldn't complain about any of the Final Fours that we just mentioned. Listen, we got to get to a break. On the other side, we're going to talk about Memphis. We got a question about Michigan versus Michigan State, and we're going to get into the best question of the night for John Henson. Just wait. Welcome back to Last Call here on Stadium. We are the Field of 68. My name is Rob Doster. I have Kevin Sweeney with me. I have John Henson with me, and we are answering your questions here for about the next 5 to 6 minutes or so. We're going to start with this. It comes from none other than one of our hosts, John Martin, who I'm sure is he's celebrating the birth of his child and mourning another loss for the Memphis Tigers. How far from the NCAA tournament is Memphis after tonight's loss? Sweeney, we'll go to you on that one first.
Look, the good news for Memphis is, one, the American Conference tournament is winnable, and two, they actually have some games to make that ground up beforehand. They have SMU on the road this weekend, and then they have 2 games still with FAU. Like, those are opportunities to build a resume. The problem is that the way that they're playing, it doesn't feel possible that they can get things straightened out and get an at-large bid, right? To me, I think it's close to saying, look, it's 3 days in March. Can Memphis just go on a heater? David Jones light it up, Javon Quinterly light it up, and all of a sudden now we're rolling and we go dancing. But I think without winning the AAC tournament, it's going to be really, really challenging.
Yeah, if you want to get the experts' opinions breaking this down, we will have our bracketologists tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. Breaking down the entire bracket, but they will also be scooping the CBS unveiling of the top 16 seeds, and we will be unveiling our top 16 seeds, and I will put up our bracketologists against anybody else's bracketologists in the United States of America. Henson, next question for you from Trevor K., which is not our Trevor, it is a different Trevor. Thoughts on Michigan versus Michigan State this weekend? Rivalry game, 2 teams heading in opposite directions.
You know, rivalry game. I like Michigan. Honestly, they play better at home. They got their full team. My guy, I don't know what kind of suspension guy Doug's on. I don't know, like he can play at home, but he can't go on the bus. I don't know what that is. But Michigan is actually halfway decent at home, and I just think it's a rivalry game, and their backs are against the wall. And Michigan State, I think, is going to rear its ugly head. And I like Michigan in this game. I don't know the line, but I would definitely hammer that line. I don't know what it's going to be, but I do like Michigan right here at home, rivalry game. I'm going to take the Wolverines.
All right, Henson, is it time?
Yeah, it's time.
I think it's time. I think it's time. So this question comes from our own Trevor Valise. He is our producer, Trevor. And it stems from a study. I'm going to call it a study that the website Mid-Major Madness, which is a great place to be able to go get any information that you want on some of the best mid-major teams in college basketball. They evaluated the sexiest coaches in college basketball for Valentine's Day. and they handed the title of the sexiest coach in college basketball to Colorado State's Nico Medved. Now, we all know that Kevin Sweeney approves this ruling. I love Nico, great guy. I would definitely have him as one of the sexiest coaches in all of college basketball. I personally voted for Tim Miles, number one. I was outvoted by a lot of people for Tim Miles at number one, but we had to hit up Henson for his top 5 sexiest coaches in all of college basketball. Henson, the floor is yours, sir. We're calling 1-4 low. It's the isolation play. It is the let him cook. It is the do him offense. Henson, what do you got?
So, sexiest is kind of a gear. I wouldn't want to call my list sexiest, but we're gonna say good looking guys that can get the job done, right? These are guys. I'm in Miami right now. I'm live from the 305. I'm in Miami. I'm down here. I'm hanging out. And so these are guys that, you know what, if I needed to go somewhere, they could, be the wingman, or they could be my wingman, and we needed to pull some chicks, and we needed to get things done. These are the guys that I would want at the bar with me on the rooftop. I'm going to go Todd Golden. I'm going TJ Otzelberger. I'm going my guy Kim English. That's my guy too. Me and Kim we tear the town up. I'm gonna go Damon Stoudemire and Lamar Paris. These are guys that I do. Look, we go down at the bar, we hang out, and these are guys that we could get the job done. 2-man game all night.
I like the Kim English call. Call. Kimmy's when you get him away from like the press conference Kim English, and you get the real Kim English, you see, and Baltimore Kim English comes out, like that's my guy. I love Kimmy.
I had him. He was my rookie. He was in my rookie. We had a rookie transition camp. He was in my breakout group. So that's a good. That's my guy, man. He's a good dude.
All right, I'm going to give you a couple more names that you got to put on that list. One, since I thought we were doing the sexiest coaches, how can you not have Tony Bennett on that list? The Silver Fox himself.
I thought about that.
Come on now.
I thought about that.
Yeah,
I don't like the way. I don't like how he coaches his offense. He might be too conservative. I'm aggressive.
You mean he's not kicking it at live with you until 4 o'clock in the morning?
I don't want to.
Nah.
I don't want to score for live. I want to score 80 points. I want to transition a lot of possessions.
All right, the other one that you need on that list, you got to have Drew Valentine on there, without a doubt. We're talking about Drew Valentine on Valentine's Day.
He was a thought, but I wanted to go bigger names.
Yeah, the number one sneakerhead in all of college basketball. I know Sweeney approves of that one as well. The last one I had on my list, Wes Miller. How could you not have Wes Miller on that list? Henson, that's your guy. He's a Tar Heel.
So these are all 3 guys that I dabbled in thinking about doing. If I had a top 10, they would have been there guaranteed.
Okay. Sweeney, anything to add?
How about Kyle Neptune if we're going with like cool, can dress, like Kyle Neptune gets some fits off on the sideline.
I like that.
Yeah, he does. Kyle Neptune has definitely gone from the Jay Wright suit pedigree, if not the Jay Wright coaching pedigree. Listen, this has been the last call. We're the Field of 68. We'll see you again tomorrow night at midnight.